I've always looked forward to the 4th of July. Fireworks, grilled food, those cheap little American flag sunglasses. It was the one time our quiet Michigan neighborhood actually came alive. Families would set up lawn chairs in their driveways, kids would dart between sprinklers and sparklers, and someone always brought out a boombox blasting Springsteen. It was simple, predictable, comforting. But this past summer, it all changed. It started with a new neighbor. His name was Mr. Caro, a retired veteran who moved in 2 doors down from my parents' house. He was all smiles and handshakes, always sporting a ball cap with some military insignia. The neighborhood loved him instantly. He spoke at the HOA meeting a week before the holiday, suggesting we organize a patriotic neighborhood watch to keep the celebration safe and pure, his word. He handed out old walkie-talkies, said it'd be fun. "We'll be like the old Minutemen," he chuckled, watching out for any threats to American tradition. At first, I didn't think much of it. I was just a college student home for the summer, trying to enjoy the brief break before classes picked up again. I didn't take the walkie-talkie. I figured it was just a way for the older folks to feel involved. But even before the party began, something started to feel off. People were acting strangely, whispering, watching. I overheard Mrs. Langley from across the street mutter to someone, "He didn't stand during the anthem last year." Another neighbor complained that the Gutierrez family didn't have a flag up. There was a kind of righteous energy brewing, like everyone was just waiting for someone to mess up so they could point it out. Then the messages started. Around noon, I got a text from an unknown number. "No pledge, no pride. Are you even one of us?" I had skipped the morning's neighborhood gathering, where everyone recited a loyalty pledge Caro had written, something about honoring tradition and rooting out internal threats. My mom brushed it off as a gimmick, but it clearly meant more to others. The afternoon dragged. People weren't celebrating. They were watching. Kids were afraid to run too far. One guy, Sam, a friendly high school teacher, got grilled by a group because he left early to visit his mother. They accused him of abandoning the community. It was insane. I asked my friend Kayla if she was seeing this, and she just looked away. "It's just about respect," she muttered. By dusk, it wasn't even subtle anymore. People used the walkie-talkies constantly, calling out infractions. Someone reported that Mr. Keene burned a flag napkin by accident. The veteran's voice would cut in over the static, low and slow, praising the loyal and warning about infiltrators. It sounded harmless at first, but the more I listened, the more it felt like manipulation. His tone was careful, measured, like he was winding them up. I started digging. I walked past his house and saw a board with names and notes, symbols next to each. Mine had a red X. I took a picture. That's when I realized he was broadcasting more than just alerts. He had a second walkie channel, one not everyone had. I tuned in on an old scanner app and heard it. His voice, feeding paranoia. She questioned the pledge. He turned off the anthem early. They brought foreign food. By the time night fell and fireworks should have started, no one was looking at the sky. They were looking at me. A small crowd gathered near our driveway. Someone shouted, "Where's your flag?" Another added, "Why didn't you show for the pledge? What are you hiding?" I backed away, heart pounding, trying to laugh it off. "Guys, this isn't normal." But they didn't blink. A neighbor I'd known since I was 10 pointed a trembling finger at me. "Prove you love this country," she whispered. "Say the pledge, right now." I turned and ran. My parents were at a neighbor's and hadn't seen any of this. I jumped into my car, hands shaking, and sped off. Behind me, the crowd stood motionless in the glow of the streetlight. still watching. As I reached the edge of town, my phone buzzed. You ran. A true patriot never runs. Then the walkie-talkie I'd thrown in the back seat, one I never turned on, crackled to life. Static, then a voice, low and calm. All threats are temporary. The watch is forever. I drove through the night, never looking back. Sometimes I think I see someone following me in a car with no plates. Sometimes I hear that same voice on my Bluetooth speaker, even when my phone's off. Maybe I'm just paranoid. Or maybe Caro didn't need a block party, just a foothold. All I know is I'm never going home for the 4th again. The explosion haunts me. Not just the sound, but the silence right before it. That strange pause, like the night was holding its breath. I'm a paramedic in a small Texas town, the kind of place where nothing really happens and everyone waves from their front porch. The 4th of July is a big deal here, even if it's always a little rough around the edges. We do things ourselves: homemade barbecue, kids racing through sprinklers, and fireworks set off by local volunteers in a dusty field past the feed store. This year was no different, until everything went sideways. One of the shells, Freedom Thunder, I think it was, misfired. Instead of soaring up, it veered sideways and detonated right in the crowd. I saw the orange burst and then the screams. People falling, clutching at burns and blood. I ran in, did my job, patched wounds, calmed people down. But one boy didn't make it. 6 years old. I never even learned his name. For a while, I told myself it was just a tragic accident. I did everything I could, right? But then the town started changing. Johnny, one of the guys who helped with the fireworks, was back in that same field 2 nights later, lighting a Roman candle all by himself. Just standing there, watching the sparks like they were whispering to him. Then Emily, a nurse I work with, started carrying sparklers in her bag, said they made her feel connected. People weren't grieving. They were fixated, like the blast had left something behind that none of us could see, but all of them could feel. And it didn't stop there. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw that moment again. But it kept shifting. The faces in the crowd began to smile in my memory. The boy who died, smiling right before the firework hit. I knew it wasn't real, but it felt more vivid than anything else in my life. It was like something was rewriting the truth inside me. I started digging, trying to make sense of it. That's when I found the reports. 20 years ago, same field, same kind of accident, 3 injured, 1 dead. The paper barely covered it, but the hospital records were clear. I found the names, all still in town, all connected. I followed one of them, Mrs. Kinney, to a barn behind the old grain silo. There were others inside, lighting fireworks in secret, staring into the flashes like worshippers at an altar. One man whispered, "Each spark shows the cracks." I knew then this wasn't just grief. It was a kind of infection. That night, my friend Derek, who'd helped me carry the boy's body, showed up at my door, said I was ready. He handed me a card, an invitation. Midnight, the field. I almost didn't go. But I needed answers. What I found was worse than anything I imagined. 20 people stood in a circle around a rigged firework platform twice the size of the one on the 4th. Homemade devices, unstable, illegal, deadly. Derek stood in the center and said, "The flash strips away the lies. We were chosen to remember and now to repeat." Then he turned to me. "Watch, or stop us." But the fuse is lit. I should have tackled him, yelled, done something. But I didn't. I just stood there as he lit the fuse. And then I ran. I ran like hell. The sky behind me lit up with an explosion so bright it turned night into day. No one talked about it afterward. No one reported it. But now I see sparks where there shouldn't be any. I hear distant laughter when I try to sleep. I don't know if I escaped some delusion or if I ran from something real. All I know is part of me still wonders what I would have seen if I had stayed. Because sometimes, in the silence, I swear I hear that same pause, the one just before the blast, and I'm terrified that next time I won't run. Every summer, like clockwork, my entire extended family gathers at our old lakeside cabin in Maine for the 4th of July. It's a tradition older than I am: flag raising at dawn, potluck lunch at noon, a group hike through the woods behind the cabin, then fireworks over the lake after dark. It used to feel comforting, like we were a living piece of American folklore, safe from the world's chaos. But this year, something had changed. I'd moved out of state earlier that spring, finally got a taste of independence, and I guess that distance made the whole thing feel different. The moment I stepped out of the car, I could feel the tension crackling under the surface. Smiles were too wide, hugs too tight, conversations carefully curated like everyone was reading from the same internal script. The flagpole had been polished. The decorations were perfectly symmetrical. Even the kids weren't goofing around. They just stood in a neat little row, tiny hands on hearts, eyes fixed on the flag. During the Pledge of Allegiance, everyone recited it word for word in perfect unison, no mistakes, no hesitation. It wasn't just enthusiasm, it was devotion. I muttered through the words half-heartedly and noticed my cousin Liam glance sideways at me, expression unreadable. When I coughed during the national anthem, Aunt Joanne actually hissed at me to be quiet. I tried to laugh it off. Geez, guys, I didn't commit treason. But no one laughed. They just stared. Later, Uncle Frank, the self-declared family patriarch and a retired Marine, pulled me aside by the woodshed. His voice was calm, but his eyes held something hard behind them. "We've built something here," he said. "A legacy. You don't have to agree with everything, but you will show respect. Fall in line, or don't come back." After that, it all got worse. Subtle things at first. People stopped sitting near me. I was left out of conversations, ignored when I offered to help. When I came down late for breakfast, I got sharp looks. "You missed flag folding," Aunt Joanne said without looking at me. I'd never even heard of that being a thing. At lunch, my red shirt, apparently not red enough, was the subject of passive-aggressive remarks about real commitment. I started noticing how often everyone repeated the same phrases like mantras. Pride through unity. The family is the foundation of the nation. Tradition is truth. It was like they were brainwashed, like they wanted to be. The real break came that afternoon when I tried to suggest skipping the hike due to the heat. Everyone froze. Then someone muttered, "She doesn't understand." Another voice added, "She'll have to learn." That night, unable to sleep, I wandered into the attic to find a signal for my phone. There was none. And found an old notebook behind a box of fireworks labeled "Ceremony, Reserve Only." The notebook was filled with handwritten entries, names, dates, behaviors. Greg, 2016, refused the pledge. Drove into lake, ruled accidental. Sandra, 2019, interrupted ceremony, spent the night in the canoe, never returned. The entries grew more cryptic and unsettling the deeper I went. One entry simply read, "Ellen, forgot anthem lyrics, corrected permanently." My stomach turned. I slammed the book shut and tried to leave. I packed my bag, grabbed my car keys, and slipped out while everyone was gathered by the dock. But when I got to my car, the hood was open. Wires were cleanly cut. My breath caught in my throat. Behind me, I heard gravel crunch under feet. I turned slowly. My family, dozens of them, stood in the driveway, blocking the exit. They were all holding lit sparklers. Their faces glowed in the orange light, and they were smiling. Not kindly, not welcoming. Just smiling. Uncle Frank stepped forward. "Leaving before the final ceremony? You really don't understand, do you?" They began chanting my name, slowly, rhythmically. "Stay with us," someone whispered. "Just watch the sky." My heart slammed against my ribs. I ran, not toward the cabin, but into the trees. I didn't have a plan, just the sheer, primal need to get away. The fireworks began behind me, echoing through the forest like distant artillery. The flashes lit up the treetops in bursts of red, white, and blue. I stumbled, cut my foot, nearly ran into a tree, but I didn't stop. I kept going until the booms were distant and the chanting had faded. Eventually, I collapsed beneath a ridge, breathing so hard it hurt. I waited there for hours, shivering in the warm July air, listening to the night. No one came for me. When I finally emerged near dawn, the cabin was quiet. Sparklers lay burned out on the dock. My car was still disabled. I hiked to the ranger station 10 miles out. I told them my car had broken down, that my phone had no signal, and that I needed help. I didn't mention the chanting, or the notebook, or the looks. They'd never believe it. But I haven't been back since. I don't answer the family group texts. I ignore the voicemails. But every 4th of July, I leave town. I keep moving. Motel to motel. No online presence. I keep my lights off. And I sleep with my keys under my pillow. Because if I ever hear sparklers outside my window again, or the sound of my name being chanted in the dark, I don't think I'll be able to run fast enough a second time.